is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gamers for Life podcast, episode 101. You're each and every Friday/Saturday/Sunday discussing all things games. I'm one of your hosts, Sherelle. With me is my co-host, my pride and joy, Arthur Thomas. What's up, buddy?
I think Pride and Joy is my new favorite title. I'm gonna frame that one. Yeah, but I mean, hey man, we're in for a great, super happy, fun time episode. E3's canceled. No more Gamepass for $1. Last of Us port isn't playable. It's all good times. It's good. Spring's here, guys. It's all smiles. Everything's downhill. Why are we waking up in the morning anymore? Let's get to it.
That's hilarious. No, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, a lot of our news is in.
Oh my dude, you're just reading this off while smiling. E3's canceled. Gamepass for $1 is going away. Last of Us port's not playable. All good times.
Oh man,
it's funny. Okay. Captain Pride and Joy will save the day.
I hope so, because unfortunately, Church is going to be with us to give us that positivity spin on all of his takes. So it's got the good old negative boys here. Here, take down the news for today.
just like the good old times.
Just like the good old times, baby. That's how we got to episode 101. You know what I'm saying?
Like, oh, you want good news? Go watch cartoons.
Yeah,
E3's dead.
Right, exactly. It's a good Cartoon Network. Wait, that's no more. So
I'll say really random. It's funny you say that, because I was just rewatching because I got Crunchyroll, so I'm getting back in anime. Or maybe phrase that, I'm now putting time back in anime, because as adults, it's not like we stop liking something. It's more just I don't have or manage my time to put time into it, sort of thing. So
right.
It's like I like anime, but it's like I don't have the time to watch 1,000 episodes of One Piece.
Right, which is why I never start. That's why I never start. It's like I can't just like jump in randomly. Like I have to just start from the beginning, and I just don't have that time. And
people are like, well, I find time to watch One Piece. I'm like, well, props to you, my dude. Like I'm just saying, boo me, because I'm just like, hey, I work X hours a week. I can only do so much time with my free. I can only do so much with my free time. YouTube and just doing nothing takes a lot of it, because Jarrell knows, there was that gray area that happens all the time where you come home, or you clock, in my case, you clock out of work because I work from home. And you're in that gray area where you have enough energy to not fall asleep, but definitely not enough energy to focus on a game.
Right, exactly.
So, YouTube, HBO, movies, entertainment. I could do anime, but if I did, it'll be a dub, because again, it's like I'm too focused to read. Sorry, subtitles. I'm gonna watch. I want to watch YouTube.
I know there's a book that I borrowed that I've yet to open because I'm just tired. I don't know.
I'm trying to read Devon's book. Devon wrote a book. I don't know if you remember Devon from GameStop.
Yeah, he was the one that told me about the bomb threat. GameStop. He wrote a book. I wonder if that's in there.
No, he wrote a children's book.
Oh, cool.
So I got that hardback copy, because I'm not responsible enough for a paperback. It's like, oh man, it's a really cool, loyal purchase. I'm just not responsible enough, so I'll pay more for that. Like, dude, plastic controllers and microchips don't survive me. Paper doesn't stand a chance.
Well, kudos to you supporting him. You'll have to send me a link. I'm curious to check it out just in general. So if you are watching this or listening to this, hello, be sure to like and subscribe here on our YouTube channel. Please do that. Subscribe. It's free. And we're episode 101. We got video content back on the board for y'all to check out our Gamers for Life podcast, which a lot of folks have been a fan of, and we hope you'll be fans of too. So be sure to like and subscribe here. And you can follow on the application of your choice when it comes to the audio version of the podcast. Since we have the full 101 is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just whichever one you want to choose. And then Arthur, he's our streaming guy. He does the streaming here for the Gamers for Life podcast. So if you want to check out his streams, he does a myriad of games. Be sure to go to that YouTube channel, and anything else regarding Gamers for Life. Eventually want to get some merch. I hope maybe sometime this year I can try to invest into some Gamers for Life merch to have available. But just when it comes to all things Gamers for Life, go to linktree.com/Gamers for Life, the one-stop shop link. to all of the other links when it comes to the Gamers for Life. And here at the Gamers for Life podcast, we read the news while you can watch or listen to what you choose by clicking on the links of the time code within the description of the episode so you know what is available to you. Or you can just hang out with us here at the Gamers for Life podcast. And we got a lot of topics here today. And as Arthur has foreshadowed, a lot of those topics are unfortunately not the most positive news. It's a lot of news. It's just not very positive. But gosh darn it, we're here. So starting on the no-go on the news. Unfortunately, this was one that kind of we've been talking about for a few episodes this year, right? As far as just, it just doesn't seem like E3 would be around, given that all the three major platforms have pulled and then some. And unfortunately, we are correct. So referring to E3 2023 officially has been canceled. And according to Engadget, I'll read this a little bit here. It says Microsoft, Nintendo, Ubisoft, and other major players in the game industry have all confirmed that they have no presence at E3 2020 show floor. Now the event itself won't happen at all. According to IGN, the Entertainment Software Association has begun notifying members that while the show remains a beloved event and brand, the plans for E3 2023 simply did not garner the sustained interest necessary to execute it in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry. And it says in quotes, it says the ESA has confirmed cancellation on Twitter, issued a statement from ReedPop's global VP of gaming, Kyle Marsden-Kish, saying, in quote, this was a difficult decision because all the effort we and our partners put towards making the event happen, but we had to do what's right for the industry and what's right for E3. We appreciate and understand that interest companies wouldn't have playable demos ready, and resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle they couldn't overcome. For those who did commit E3 2023, we're sorry we can't put into the showcase you deserve and you've come to expect from ReedPop's event experiences. End quote. It's going to end there. I think the rest of it we don't really need to read. Arthur, your thoughts on E3 2023 being canceled?
It sucks because it's E3, and it's weird because I'm trying to get a lot of people's opinions on it. Because at the same time, for me, it's kind of like in the category of not surprising since the big three dropped out. That's why, to a point, when I saw these articles, I'm like, are people like dumb, or is like the news just breaking of the big three canceling? And I was like, right. Oh no, the whole thing's canceled. So, I mean, that's the only reason for me. I'm like, am I in a category of it's not shocking or surprising, because it's kind of like a smaller wave to what we've already heard. Like for me, like I'm just as the thought of it or the idea of E3, when Sony, Nintendo, and the Xbox backs out, that already meant for me E3 was canceled. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like your dad walking out to get cigarettes 15 years ago, and then now the police says, hey, so we're gonna file a missing persons report on this guy. That was 10 years ago. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? It was just like this unnecessary, I guess you could say, I don't want to say closure, but like update that for me wasn't shocking. Because that's how I mentally took it. I mentally took it months ago when we talked about Xbox and Sony and Nintendo not coming E3. I thought that was already agreed of like, okay, so E3 is not happening. That means everyone's going to do a digital thing. So I'm just sitting here like, oh no, but didn't we cover this already? Sort of thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's a couple of factors to this. One of them, like you said, I agree with you. I mean, maybe it's just the GameStop guys. We've just been on this. We're like, it's not going to happen. Like, I was even surprised at Kind of Funny, Tim Geddes. I have nothing there's nothing personal I have against him. I just think that he gives the least amount of. You
hate him. You want to punch his off. We get it.
He gives the least amount of input out of everyone, and maybe it's because he's like a part owner. Kind of Funny. He's doing other things, which I can understand. I get it, but just I could tell how out of touch he was, because there's an episode where he was like, I think E3 is going to happen. I think a 60% chance that it can happen. And like Greg and Blessing were like, no, Blessing and I want to say Andy Cortez. He was like, they're like, no, it's not going to happen. What are you talking about? Like 99% chance, like it's not going to happen. And in fact, it didn't happen. So you know, obviously from that perspective, yes, like this isn't really new information to us. I think people were just let down in general because this was kind of the first year where like COVID regulations were like off, right? So like last year there were some dwindles. 2021, you know, there are some parameters. People could go outside, but there's still parameters, right? And this is kind of the first year where when it comes to parameters of people not being able to see anybody, it's kind of been off the table, right? And people have been able to do things that they used to do, you know, go to concerts and whatnot. So I think that is one of the reasons why people are so upset, because I think a lot of people were looking forward to this, and unfortunately it didn't come to pass. I will say though, when it comes to positivity, this is definitely a plus in Jeff Keighley's book.
Dude, tell me why. I was about to read off like an article here from Game Rant, from Game Rant, and it's like already talk about Jeff Keighley. I'm like, dude, Jeff, you still, hey, apologies, but constructive criticism for the sore issues, but please don't take it to heart. Summer Game Fest. Dude, I'm still impressed with last year's Summer Game Fest. Remember, like I wasn't going to watch it. First of all, it was like on Thursday afternoon. Perfect time for us, and you know, employed people to not watch it.
Exactly.
But no, last year's Summer Game Fest had a ton of like legitimate announcements, and it's been getting better and better. And the other thing, reading Game Rant right here, is that it's going to be in person. So Summer Game Fest is going to be in person. Now, with this same Game Rant article, I'm kind of like I'm kind of think of the word summarizing here. But again, it says, let me just quote it. Summer Game Fest recently poached several of E3's usual publisher associates and has all but subsumed, new word, E3's role as a focus series of a focus series of conference. Summer Game Fest now intends to capture the demos and socializing of past E3s with an in-person event. It should serve as a comparable mid-June rallying point for publisher showcases. Completely agree. The fact it's going to be in person, again, with COVID, some states than earlier, making COVID end. But E3s in LA County, COVID was not known for being concise back home in LA County. I will say at the same time, I kind of, you know, praise Jeff Keighley. Real quick, here's one sentence I don't agree with Game Rant. I want to discuss with you. Like here's the opening line. So for Game Rant has, you know, their article, E3 may never recover from its confirmed cancellation 2023. This is Liam Ferguson, opening line. After years of uncertainty, it's finally happened. E3 has been canceled due to a lack of interest and attendance. Pause. The lack of attendance, I think that's a lack of attendance by fans because of how much stupid amounts of game journalists and supposed, I hate this word, I hate how they affect every industry they touch like a virus, influencers. You remember how, you know, even for example, the Fallout 76, the collector's edition, not to go down that rabbit hole, but even for example, when a collector's edition was supposed to have a bag and they said, oh, we never made it. Sorry, it doesn't exist. And then the dozens of influencers that got that bag at E3. So I'm just kind of using that. I don't know why, but what that opening line that said has been canceled due to a lack of interest and attendance. The attendance one is the line I don't like, because as a person, as a customer, you know, as a fan, I have felt that E3 in person has been gatekept for years, decades by its own industry and its own attendance policies, or just how open they are with not the public being able to attend. So you can't say the attendance is low when your ratio of influencers and industry has been increasing while you themselves have been decreasing access to the public. So that's why I feel that line of attendance is a huge asterisk that they themselves made.
Yeah, I think you have a good point as far as like, hey, it's a bit deeper than that. It's a very shallow sentence when it comes to E3. So I do agree with you on that. And I would say it's even deeper than the influencers, right? Because to be completely honest, influencers are still getting exclusive or content that the public doesn't get. It's just Bethesda did a terrible job of hiding it. You know what I mean? Like Microsoft, Sony, and then they're still giving out specific influencer stuff to them. It's just Bethesda did a bad job of just kind of making it where, you know, they did a bad job of, one, balancing their inventory, and then two, just really not, like, pretty much spitting on customers' faces when it comes to that. But the other point I was going to say was that you said that's a great point, as far as just the imbalance of general admission from the public and with vendors. You know, so when you talk about attendance, some people didn't have the option to attend, right? E3 was never like a Comic-Con, which I think E3 should have been more like a Comic-Con, where you have people, you know, where people can join E3 that aren't a part of a media press, you know, or whatever the case may be. You know, they did that too little too late. And honestly, I think one of the main reasons why E3 is not, it's not due to a lack of interest. I don't think that's true.
Same. I agree. I was shocked by that statement. I was like, how is this your opener? Like, it's like I'm reading the rest of this article out of spite.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think Game Rant's kind of dwindled off. They used to be a lot better, in my opinion. I go to Video Games Chronicle for a lot of news today. But I think it's just whoever they had on the story just wasn't really knowledgeable in games. But, you know, my opinion is that one of the main reasons why E3 has dwindled off is because it's so goddamn expensive. Like, if you talk about the leasing of having a booth, having space, having those things, I think they were charging a shit ton to these companies. And then I think these companies just said, you know, why are we paying all this money to see press? You know what I mean? Especially when
exactly.
Yeah. I was gonna say really quick, especially when in 2020 they kind of proved, like, they kind of just showed to themselves. They said, oh, like, we can get the same stuff off via digital. You know what I mean? And press can still do their thing via digital, just not running around. You know what I mean? So it's like, why are we paying all of this money? You know, so I think that was really the test dummy, because before that, there was a lot of E3s that really kind of didn't happen, or if they're just really nothing was happening because they want to give the excuse to demos and whatnot. I think Summer's Game Fest pretty much contests to that. They're like, no, that's not it. That's not the reason why E3 is canceled. You know, there's even a deeper discussion to be made too, as far as Jeff Keighley, because remember, Jeff Keighley used to be very tight knit with E3, and I was reading and hearing on podcasts and whatnot that Jeff Keighley was giving some criticism to E3, like, hey, like, you guys are kind of missing, like, the mark here on this. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And they pretty much just said, fuck you. They were like, you know, we're going to do what we're going to do. And they really underestimated the power that Jeff Keighley has in the gaming industry. So he was just like, okay, you know, so he started to do his own thing, obviously, i.e. Summer Game Fest, the Game Awards, all this stuff. You know, he's been in the industry for over 30 years. He has all these connections. He knows when things are coming out. He knows his connections to publishers, developers. So, you know, I think he even released like a cheeky tweet, as far as, like, once he found out that E3 was canceled. I think he had kind of like a cheeky, like, fuck you, like, tweet, basically, saying, like, haha, I told you, you know what I mean? And I don't blame him. You know what I mean? Especially when you were someone who was a big advocate for it, but you have people running it that don't really understand the gamer and the vision of it. Okay, based on Arthur's reaction, I think he found the tweet. Go ahead.
R.I.P. Bozo.
Yeah, man. So it's just like, yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest things too, is where they already had the inside guy to make E3 what it was, that E3 way better, you know, and yeah, I honestly just think that it's gotten so much hype because people were really excited with, you know, things quote unquote back to normal, and that it's officially canceled. But yeah, I mean, I think for E3 to sustain, say for 2024, they really need to, if they really want to take it seriously, they really need to look at their costs. They really need to look at just like how to really give who they want to give the experience for. Do they want to give the experience for these media people, for these influencers, or do they want to give the experience to the customer? And I've always said, you know, or I've said before, like, they need to make this a Comic-Con type of convention. Like, if they have to make the money, the profit off of food, off of shit that people are going to buy that the regular customer won't, but the gamer customer will, you know, invest in that, you know, the different types of vendors, obviously having Microsoft and Nintendo and them back, like, they need to do that. That is what they need to do, I think. But go ahead.
Because here's like, so first of all, there was RIP Bozo, which I thought was hilarious, but it's more of a heartfelt one. So by the way, that's like the first time I think I've ever read a tweet, actually just reading a tweet also out loud. So this is new ballpark for me. Also, now annoyed that I'm doing it on Jeff Keighley. So yeah, I think for my first impression to this thing called, you know, like reading tweets from Twitter. Thanks, Jeff. And so here what he says is, here's 15-year-old me at the first ever E3 in 1995. E3 meant so much to me and so many of you too. 4 years ago, I realized that E3 wasn't evolving as it needed to compete in a global digital world. So we started building What's Next, see you at hashtag Summer Game Fest, June 8th, and then send another one out. Join together to celebrate what's next in video games at Summer Game Fest returns live Thursday, June 8th, streaming live everywhere. Boom. Heartfelt. Hey, he's been there since day one. He's been there. My guy was there since E3 day one, and kind of hints, you know, at that, not the discussion, you know, like a behind doors discussion, but says, hey, I've mentioned, you know, realized that this needs to evolve and needs to change. And we did that. Summer Game Fest. See you there.
Exactly. Yeah, it was definitely a nice tie-in to him promoting his own stuff. But I don't blame him. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, unfortunately, E3 pulled a blockbuster. You know what I mean? And didn't really recognize the value of digital. You know, so it is what it is. I mean,
and also a good point. You mentioned Comic-Con. Like, Comic-Con has it. Like, Comic-Con, to my knowledge, I want to say really doesn't do a lot of, like, I don't want to say the word as press, but like press badges as much, because they know their value. Like, oh, you're an influencer, too bad, pay for your ticket. You know what I mean? Like, you're like they know where like Comic-Con doesn't need its influencers. Neither did E3. E3 didn't need every single person with an Instagram to promote Bethesda. E3 didn't need every single person with a Twitter to promote Ubisoft. You know what I mean? Ubisoft, Square Enix, these are companies that excel far in between, you know, beyond on their own, you know, far on their own without influencers. But E3 just went hard into that. I'm not saying it was the end all be all, but again, you discussing Comic-Con made me realize that, because again, like, Comic-Con knows its worth. It's almost like when I worked at hotels, people would like literally email us, hey, I'm an influencer. Can I get a free room if I talk about your thing? No. We're like a rolled around company. Sorry, like at the time I was working there, right? But, you know, up until COVID 2020, our biggest marketer is not you. It was Google. Just people Googling a hotel in Long Beach, California. So our biggest way to get out there wasn't through you. It's just through making sure that we pop up as like the recommended when people Google us. And I know it's not apples, but that's my only tangible, experience with influencers. So the Comic-Con thing reminded me of that. They knew their worth, and E3 didn't know theirs. Jeff knows his. He has intelligence, his backing, and I'm looking forward to Game Pass, man.
Yeah, man, definitely. So moving on here to the next thing, and unfortunately, there's the phrase, or the quote rather, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, and unfortunately, you're going to need a lot more than $1 to subscribe to Game Pass. And I'm referring to the Game Pass ultimate perk of people joining. Unfortunately, they have removed that. So the $1 is no more. It looks like there is an additional perk that they announced. Let me see if I'm reading this right, Arthur. So it says MSN.com says you're in quote, the latest Xbox Game Pass Ultimate perk. Sure to be welcome news for fans for the Square Circle looking to catch this weekend's big event, as members will be able to watch WWE's WrestleMania 39 as part of their membership. The Wrestling Federation latest entry into the world of gaming recently was made waves across the pond as WWE 2023 2K23 kicked Hogwarts Legacy from the top spot at the UK sales chart earlier this month. Let's see here. Oh, it's God. I hate this fucking website. This it says read more, but you got to download the app. So I'm not going to download.
Read more. Pay me 70 cents. How about no?
Here we go. Here we go. Sorry. I had to press another button. So let me read this here. This is your quote. The latest promotion available to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members is arriving just in time for those hoping to catch Cody Rhodes taking on Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship this weekend. Available through June 30th, members of the Xbox or Microsoft's game subscription service can now get 2 months of NBC's Peacock Premium as part of their membership. With WrestleMania airing on subscription service this year, that means Xbox Game Pass members won't have to miss a minute of the action if they claim to offer the big event. But they still have to pay full price for Game Pass. So with that being said, I guess, Arthur, give me your thoughts on one, no more of the dollar buy-in and how, what that means to you. And then I guess it's the future Game Pass as far as promoting it for new folks that haven't got into yet.
I'm sad that was gone, because I know a lot of people. I know even like a lot of popular streamers like Angry Joe Show. That's how they got into Game Pass, was the dollar thing. They're like, I want to try it. Oh, it's $1. I'll try it. And then that's how they locked everybody in. I think realistically, though, like constructively, I'm okay with this, and it makes sense for the dollar thing. Remember, we looked at those stats pre-COVID. They were 10 million, and then it was, I want to say April 2020, 10 million active users or subscribers, and then come 3 months later, like July, 15 million, a 50% increase in 3 months. So not only was the value of Game Pass already there, so what did they need? Advertising, marketing, and users. Upside downside, COVID was a major booster to the gaming industry as a whole. MMOs saw more active users, nearly arguably every corner of the gaming industry saw a boost in some way during COVID. You know what I mean? Like we said, the year 2020, gaming made more than movies and music combined, So because of that major jump, I would argue that because of that massive, 50% increase we saw during 2020 during COVID, I would argue if it wasn't for that jump, that massive 50% jump, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't really hear about this dollar thing ending. If Game Pass had stayed the course, the world had stayed the course, and they were still increasing in users. That was a trend. They were still increasing in users on a quarterly, yearly basis. We may still see this dollar thing being in use, but here we are, mass amount of users. It's on TVs now. It's the word's out there. Game Pass is, in my opinion, the best value in gaming. Not the best value for Xbox. It is the best value in all of gaming. They know it. Their fans know it. The word's out there. They have the back, both not only the financial backing, but let's say more the public backing or the public word of mouth, the knowledge to have the privilege and ability now to dial back on that massive discount bonus. And I'm not going to say I'm not happy it's gone, but at the same time, I'm not mad because I can see why they want to now. And also they're at the gray area where if they did it now, I think a lot of people want to be as frustrated as well, because now that more people see the value of it, that's more people to say, hey, it is a good value, just do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, Arthur. I think there's a few asterisks though that maybe we're not seeing the full picture. But you are 100% correct that in my opinion as well, Game Pass is the biggest value as a subscription service, period. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything that comes close to the value that Game Pass offers when it comes to just you're playing full scale games for $15 a month, and it's an amazing library now. You know, it's not like it used to be as far as Gears, Halo Machine. There's some great fucking games there. You know what I mean? And you can play it multiple ways. You know what I mean? I was freaking out to you. I'm like, I'm playing Doom 3 Eternal on my Samsung Note using a PlayStation controller. What the fuck is happening? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
the future is terrifyingly awesome.
Yeah, like there are people playing Skyrim on their Samsung fridge. Like, it's just wild things are happening, right? And it's amazing that Game Pass is just that versatile where you can access it in those type of ways. There's even little devices now, like the Steam Deck, I believe, that you can play Game Pass on those things. You know what I mean? So there's like they're making like Game Pass handheld players now. I know Logitech has one that I was thinking about looking into. Razer has one that I'm thinking about considering as well. But as far as for the dollar thing, so part of me wonders. And again, these are numbers that we don't have, but you know, you mentioned how, you know, went from 10 million to 15 million Game Pass users. Now I'm wondering how many of those Game Pass users for the that additional 5 million increase, how many of those folks were $1 buy-in, right? Well, you're about to sneeze, but you can't.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
It's exactly what's happening.
I was just identifying what it was.
Sorry, I didn't want to distract him. Just like,
no, it's okay. I was like, either he sees something on the wall or he's about to sneeze. No, but what I was saying was, how many of the additional 5 million? How many of those people were on the dollar subscription? You know what I mean? I'm curious to see the sustainability of customers using Game Pass, because in my thoughts, while it is a short win for that increase to be had, when it comes to the costs, the operating, you know, besides the operating profit and the costs, was there any real profit for those folks that had $1? How many of those people went from $1 to actually paying the full $15? You know, so those are the numbers that I would love to see, just to truly see where Game Pass is at from a profitable standpoint. But it is unequivocal that it's shaken up the industry in its entirety, right? You know what I mean? People don't want to pay $60, $70 just out of pocket anymore. They're like, well, I'd rather just use Game Pass, which is the reason why, you know, Sony is attempting to do PlayStation Now, or at least make it better, because they started and it just didn't work at all. You know, you have GeForce Now, which they're trying to do that thing. So it's, the streaming function of video games is becoming more and more an interest. You know what I mean? More and more of an interest. And while this is a neat promotion, it's nothing like the dollar thing, where it's just like, hey, it's $1 for, what was it, 3 months or something ridiculous? I mean, think about it. Three months, when it comes to a corporation, that's 25%. That's a fiscal year, right? Or that's a quarter. That's a quarter, right?
That's a fiscal quarter to just gone for $1.
Exactly. So it's like, that is like, imagine how much money, like potential money lost that they invested, like pretty much like invested just to get market share. That's why I always talk about market share for Microsoft. This is a $1 trillion company. They're like the second like most profitable company in the world. So they have the cachet to lose money, to bleed money. Amazon, another company, they can bleed money to a degree, to get market share, to get more customers saying, what is that? Hey, that's cool. Let's check that out, which is why the dollar feature was such a big thing. Part of me too, and I don't think I blame Game Pass for this. Remember, Microsoft just had thousands of layoffs as well. So it's like, how much of a contributor was that dollar function to that layoff? But it's hard to say, you can't really say, but it's just something to think about, right? But yeah, man, I think in general, I think Game Pass will be okay. I think they're probably wondering what else they can do from a profit standpoint or from a deal standpoint, you know, because even cutting it in half for like 2 months, right? Like, even though it's not nearly as crazy as the dollar one, but even cutting it in half where it's, you know, it's it's like $78, right? $750 if you will, but for 2 months, like that's still an amazing deal. You know what I mean? Way better than any Netflix, HBO, whatever the fuck subscription service. Like, absolutely buy in on that. So and Xbox still today, but Game Pass, it's still the only subscription service where I would say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna redo that. Like if I feel like if it's expired, I need to pay $15. Yeah, absolutely. Even if I'm not playing games, Xbox Game Pass is the new gym membership for me. You know what I mean? Like, even if I'm not going there, I'm just going to pay it because I already started paying it and I'm going to keep paying it. That's Game Pass to me right now. You know what I mean?
It's a very relatable analogy, my friend.
Yeah, like as an adult, like it's just, I don't have, you know, like I'm a musician too. So it's like, I don't have time really to play games. I'd rather apply for something else, but I'm not just going to leave it expired. I have to renew it. It's Game Pass. It's the most profitable, valuable thing. What if one day I just decide just to go and play, you know? So I kind of equate it to like the new gym membership. But yeah, man, that's really all I have to say. Any lasting thoughts for you?
A couple things. The second part of this article, the perks. Well, a lot of people don't know is the perks. What I mean by perks is they just gift you stuff, and that rotates all the time. I mean, like what I see on there all the time: a month of Spotify Premium, a month of Apple TV, 2 months of Peacock Premium. By the way, whoever did this ad or this article, MSN, perfect job. You nailed the audience because they knew why they were doing 2 months of Peacock. Oh, because they want to watch the new Halloween movie? No, because it's WrestleMania weekend. In fact, if you listen, we're never recording on a Sunday. The last day of WrestleMania is today. And that's right. That's just right up that those are two markets that blend daily: WrestleMania, WWE fans and gamers. So, for example, like someone like me, I'm gonna wait till I hear more about Ted Lasso, and then I'm gonna cash in on that free month of Apple TV and just binge watch Ted Lasso, and then just make sure I just end my subscription before that month ends. But that's what I'm saying though, and another thing about Game Pass and its value is and how it like adds to, in my opinion, adds the profit purchases is Far Cry 5. I sent this in the game chat right now. So what's happening right now? Number one, Far Cry 5 is 85% off because it's on its 10-year anniversary. There's a big aesthetics update. One of the DLCs for Far Cry 5, the Vietnam one, is just a perk right now. And as much as I love Far Cry, I never bought the DLCs for Far Cry. So when I saw this perk of like, oh, they're just giving me a free whole DLC, I downloaded that, and that made me think, well, if I have one and there's three, let me do some math and I'll look at how much the cost of the other two DLCs. And it turns out everything's on sale. So I ended up buying the other two DLCs that I've never played and reinstalled Far Cry 5, since now at some point me and Victor are going to go back to Far Cry 5 and play the DLCs we never got. So those perks, you get perks there all the time. Like, for example, Victor still plays Fallout 96. That upgrade for the pit or whatever, something like that, there was like a bundle or some skins or some weapons that you get. World of Warships shows up all the time. World of Tanks shows up all the time. A lot of the MMO style games shows up a lot. Like Neverwinter, you get perks on. Halo Infinite, I'm not playing it. Church, I'm sure, is super happy about this, but you get a lot of Halo Infinite skins and skins and aesthetics in the game. But that's another thing too that a lot of people don't talk about too much. I'm glad this article did is like perks. You again for Peacock subscription services, like outside of gaming, subscription services shows up all the time in these perks. Apple Plus. This is the first time I've seen Peacock, but 1 month of Apple Plus or Apple TV, whatever they call it, shows up on Game Pack perks all the time. I'm just kind of waiting it out because Ted Lasso's around the corner. That's the only thing I would watch. But again, the timing with WrestleMania, I think, is just ingenious marketing. So good job on MSN for that article. One thing I will say with Game Pass, we're talking about users. I have some numbers for you. So as we previously discussed, in April of 2020, 10 million users. By September 15, already discussed that. As of January 2022, 25 million. So again, to have an increase of that much that fast, Again, again, a entire fiscal quarter for $1. They were bleeding money. Now they could afford to bleed money, but no one can afford to bleed money to bleed money forever. You know what I mean? Maybe Amazon spending $500 million on gaming every year. Crazy number, by the way. But so again, so come January 22, and this is, by the way, not January 23, January 2022, 25 million users. So,
that's great. That's impressive numbers, definitely.
They couldn't bleed forever. It was a fun ride while I was there. The ride had to stop at some point. Get off.
Yeah, and that's when, and from just from like a textbook notion, business textbook notion, that's what you want to see when you're bleeding that much, to get that market share. And obviously they ended up keeping and growing, right? Those folks ended up becoming, valued customers, or they saw the value in what Game Pass was. And also too, we have to think about as well, right? To stay on Game Pass a little bit before we go to the next topic. These past conferences that they had as they're doing the dollar function also contributed significantly to these people staying and growing the number base, right? So like all these conferences where it said, oh, Starfield, Game Pass, this, Game Pass, this, Game Pass. And then you're like, oh yeah, and it's $1 to join. Like, what the fuck? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, I'm gonna fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like, I used to think that there was like a Superstar video and it was like, oh yeah, $5 for 5 rentals for 7 days. Yeah, I'll do that. You know what I mean? So it's like the new rental, or it's just like, wait, it's $1 for 3 months, and in the next month, this game, they're Game Pass, they're going to be exclusively to Game Pass. Like, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a great promotion and marketing function, and they've just done such a great job of every other conference. They're specifically pushing Game Pass and that function as well. And then you have gurus like yourself and me mentioning to people like, hey, $1 to join, bro. This is the best fucking dollar you're gonna spend. I fucking guarantee it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're shooting yourself for not doing it. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do that's gonna be better than $1 for Game Pass? Nothing.
Dude, it may have only been $1. Phil, you have no idea how many people I've told to get Game Pass. You're welcome. Okay.
we really need to try to work on if we get to the numbers, the subscription numbers, we got to try to see if we can be affiliate Xbox affiliates.
Dude, I mean, like, speaking of Xbox and Game Pass, and like you said, E3, dude, the last 3 years of E3s have killed it for Game Pass. I was like, remember, like, the last time we did E3 in person, I was at your house. I had a little too much because I learned Voodoo Rangers are doubles. I didn't know that.
I remember Julie the next day was like, what's that smell? Or like,
was like,
it's not vomit. Bad. It's not.
That was my bad. I was just like enjoying my time. I'm like, oh man, these IPAs are kicking. Oh, they're doubles. What? But that was when when I was losing my mind, and I was like, at E3, not at E3, but that was when I had really dipped my foot into Game Pass, because as I love it, no, I was definitely there not day one at all. But that was really the first E3 where we start seeing the Xbox logo for a trailer, and also the Game Pass logo. Game Pass. I'm just like, it was just them, thankfully, reassuring the value in my purchase every month of like, hey, you pay us every month, guess what? This coming to Game Pass. That's coming to Game Pass. That's coming to Game Pass. Oh, you don't have Game Pass? $1. And that was just, and you were there when I was going insane when they announced Psychonauts 2, and Psychonauts 2 was coming to Game Pass day one. I was like, oh my God.
Those are my favorite memories too of E3, where it's just like, whether you went over to my house or I went over to the apartment or Victor was there, just like, oh, like we just planned a whole day of like getting food and stuff and just like drinking beers and watching E3 and like, oh shit,
we planned our whole day around it, dude. It was like, clear your calendar. It's E3 Saturday, it's E3 Sunday.
Yeah, those are definitely some of my favorite memories. Definitely.
I will say one last thing before, with that note. With E3 officially being canceled, Jeff, Booby, E3's canceled. Please don't make Summer Game Fest on a Thursday. Put it on a weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he's already winning, you know what I mean? But he should definitely blow their backs out by releasing it on a weekend. just to be like, this is how you do it.
If I don't see if Summer Game Fest kills it and blows out of the water, I don't see one article with that phrasing. Jeff Keighley blew their backs out. I'll be disappointed.
Yeah, I'm coming up with crazy shit today. I don't know what's going on.
Also, on that note, I did look it up. June 8th is a Thursday. Jeff,
God damn it.
We love you, but please.
Yeah, it's like you can like at this point he can change the hands of time. Like, why choose Thursday? He can change the calendar. Like, silly. So one of the favorite things about Game Pass for me is having Game Pass on the PC, because I can play with y'all and whatnot on a lot of games that are cross-platform. And unfortunately, on the side of Sony, on that fence, when it comes to some of our favorite games available for the PC port, and I'm talking about Last of Us, sometimes it doesn't fucking work. And unfortunately, Last of Us PC version is doomed to that, to the point of refunds for the game, which is like the worst thing when it comes to something digital. Refunding for a digital, like the worst thing ever. So let me go and read this here. According to MSN.com, says here, amid controversy about the game's performance, PC gamers are being granted Steam refunds for The Last of Us. The PC release of The Last of Us had been anticipated for some time, but gamers haven't particularly satisfied with the product they've received. Expand article. Each early days for the game on the PC have been rough, to say the least. On launch day, Last of Us players were reporting hour-long load times before even being able to play the game. With Sony's continuing commitment to bringing its biggest titles to PC, having this happen to one of its flagship franchises is the nightmare scenario. Pre-release, some gamers expressed concern that Iron Galaxy would be handling the port after they had infamously responsible for the Batman Arkham Knight PC port disaster. Iron Galaxy was also in charge of the Uncharted Legacy Thieves collection PC port, and many issues have been seen in that title also seem to be plaguing The Last of Us. The refunds for the game were pointed out in a Reddit thread under user TurboStrider27. While Steam operates as a guaranteed refund policy for players with under 2 hours played in the game no more than 2 weeks after the purchase, there have been high-profile cases in the past where the platform had expanded this. Similar reports like Cyberpunk 2077 was launched as one of the most notorious games releases of all time. With Last of Us being review bombed on Steam, among constant reports of performance problems and glitches, it's no surprise that players want their money back, end quote. So it sounds like they need to fucking fire this company, Iron Galaxy. Like, what is it that hard to get fired from doing something like that? Like, they worked on 3 huge franchises for Sony and they fucked up all of them. So it's just like, guys, what are you doing? So it's just, there's a lot of layers to this, strangely. So one of them, the first layer, which is obvious and it's annoying, you know, haha, negative for you PC gamers, you elitists, you supposable superior people, you can't even get a game that's, you know, a game that's been what, like almost 10 years old, to have a good working port for it. Haha, go for console. So there's always that.
I need you to do the rest of that podcast in that voice, Joe.
School for the good guys. But so that's always that. But the other thing is that, look, Sony said that they want half of their library to be available on PC by 2025. By the looks of it, that's not possible if you're going to have people like Iron Galaxy in charge of this, because I just don't think they got what it takes for this to happen. You know what I mean? So I guess it's a little more relieving to identify, oh, they just have a bad company or developers working on this, and they just maybe they just can't really working on PC ports is just not really their forte. You know what I mean? And they just need to find a different company to do it, because these folks are not doing it for you. And when it comes to 2025 is in 2 years. So you went half a year of Cali to be on PC in 2 years. But if it's just a bunch of glitchy shit, that's not going to be a good thing for PC. You know what I mean? So it's weird, right? It's weird, and it doesn't make me want to get a console still. PlayStation still has problems as far as like really being a console for early adopters and a console for true fans, not just someone who wants to buy a console, buy one game. You know what I mean? It's just they barely even have that. You know, they got God of War Ragnarok, they got Horizon, the Horizon series, they got this, but it's just like, when it comes to just all the other games that are available on PlayStation one given time, I always say over 7,000 games came out on that console, and there's a lot of really great games that they could remake. And then just focusing on Blockbuster, I mean, PC, they're just, you know, I think PC is fine. I think they're just more annoyed, if anything. I don't think PC players really care about PlayStation being on. Well, even more so now, right? Being available for PC, if it's going to be a bunch of bullshit. But anyway, I've talked too long. What are your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts from the outside looking in, I feel like this happens all the time. Like, I don't have a PC, but I feel like I hear articles all the time of like, oh, this game's PC port is horrible. I'm just sitting here like, yeah, isn't that part of the deal when you own a PC? You just cross your fingers and hope it works.
No, it's not. That's not true.
I'm just saying.
That's not true at all. Because that's something I just, you know, again, from the console side, that's something I never have to worry about. I mean, not like so much a port, it's just more like, will the game work? Which AAA games just don't. My other games, like, will it work? Yeah, it's because to your point, and this is something that console does not have to deal with. Most of the time, or actually all the time, it's dependent on the system requirements of the game, and if you match those system requirements. There's one website that I always recommended to customers, and I think you did as well, but systemrequirementslab.com. You download the patch, it looks what you have, and then you can pick what game out of their list, and it'll tell you if it can be played or not with you not having to buy it. I used to mention that site all the time for PC players, and that was really the main go-to, you know what I mean? So part of it is just if you have a powerful enough PC in general. So I think 30-40% of people that are upset at games that don't work, it's like, look, you didn't do the homework of identifying if it works or not. But this is outside of that. This is if you have 100%, you have like, you should be able to play everything in the world, and it takes a shit. You know what I mean? So that's the unfortunate nature.
I was gonna say really quick. I'm thinking of a memory of a face. I want to say it was. I think it was either. I want to say it's Star Wars Knights of the Republic Online, or Final Fantasy 14. You remember there was one game during our time at GameStop that like a lot of people couldn't play day one because of the surprising system requirements. And I just remember the color.
It might be the Old Republic.
I just remember the color orange a lot. I just remember having a very orangey font, and that I just remember an orange font. And Old Republic has a yellow and orange font.
Yeah. I
don't remember vanilla Final Fantasy 14. Because remember that game's long dead. They did a whole massive 2.0, 4.0 on it.
Yeah.
But speaking of the requirements, you know, again, you know, we were there when I want to say it was Old Republic. Old Republic surprisingly had a significantly higher or surprisingly high for what we saw system requirement. But again, not the case here. That's just a bad port, just doesn't work. The glitches are funny and it's fun for me to watch. You know, it's fun for me to watch. You know, Ground Zero from outside the rubble. But hey, all I can say is, Drill, if half the games coming from Sony to PC are gonna look like this, it's gonna be hilarious.
And then I'd love to see the compilation, the glitch compilation of Sony's favorite games on PC, and people just doing a bunch of dumb shit and glitches and shit. Oh, I think
Blackface Joel's my favorite so far.
Oh my god, that is terrible.
It's just like, it looks. That's like
disgusting.
Have you seen videos of when people get a bag of coal, like charcoal, put on their head, shake it up, and they take their face, they take it off, and just like covered in soot and just, but all, like every skin orifice is covered with soot, and
No.
it looks like that. It looks like Joel just, it looks like Joel got a bag of charcoal in his head, shook it up, took it off, and I was like, "Hey, Ellie, what's up?"
Jesus Christ.
But again, if Sony's going to have half the catalog online, it's going to look like this. We have a lot to look for. We have a lot more stories to look forward to, Drill, for content.
Good Lord, man. Yeah, unfortunately, we definitely do.
But I will say again too, when you hear refunds on the digital space, that is rare. That's few and far between, and concerning. When you start hearing of digital refunds, that's in the category of a game is unplayable. That someone sold you, and you purchased something that does not work. That's concerning. Like,
it's even more concerning because they're literally losing like all the profit for that, right? Because like we talked about for GameStop, when we push digital, I mean there's a sliver of it, a very small sliver went to GameStop, but most of it went to the peeps, right?
The publishers make the game.
Exactly. Publisher, a little cut from the developer and all that other shit. But imagine refunding all of that. You know what I mean? Like, that is concerning. That is terribly concerning. So it's just, it's not one of those things where it's like, it's a small portion that's being refunded. It's like, no, profit that was supposed to go to multiple functions is being refunded. So that's a huge fucking issue.
Don't worry. Quoting our buddy Philly Phil, Last of Us will survive this.
I'm so tired of Last of Us right now, but
what? No,
great. They did a great interpretation from HBO, but that's about it.
The remaster Part 2 is coming out, and don't worry, Drill. That means The Last of Us Part 2 might be in 3 parts. Yay!
So you sent me this, and I think it's interesting to we can talk about for a little bit here. So this is another MSN article here, but it says here in quote, or for the title, Shuhei Yoshida wants the PS5 to become more welcoming place for indie devs. So it says, you're continuing, quote, former SIE Worldwide Studios president Shuhei Yoshida has outlined how the PS5 can become a premier place for smaller game developers in the industry. As the PS5 enters its 3rd year of the market availability, it's been an ongoing saga for the now head of independent developer initiative at Sony. Speaking at gamesindustry.biz, Yoshida has doubled down on plans for Sony's latest home console to bring in as many creators as possible to the system. In the interview, he said, "We are working hard to improve our systems and tools, sharing information, better promote games, and we try to create new ways to showcase these quality games to users. There's been no shortage of support for independent developers on the PS5, as the PlayStation Indies initiative has been thriving since its launch July of 2020. This push, spearheaded by Shuhei Yoshida himself, since stepping down as president, has now blossomed into a platform to discover all of the upcoming games from smaller teams as the answer to the AAA focus of some of the best PS5 games on the market." It says there have been some stigma around the difficulty of developing games on the PS5, which has persisted since even before the launch of the PS5. It's something that Yoshida wants to tackle head on and let developers know that's not the case. We're on the change of perceptions of the challenges of developing and publishing games on PlayStation. It's a communication challenge we've been working on, end quote. I'm going to end there because it's sad, because I think there is... Shuhei Yoshida and Jim Ryan, they don't think the same thing. They're not in line with each other. And I've always been a big fan of Shuhei Yoshida. When Shuhei Yoshida was the SIE president of Sony, that's some of my favorite PlayStation memories of owning the console. He's just really a true passionate gamer, and understood the gamer very similar to Phil Spencer. Right. And there's a sense of pride, I think, of having the console then. But Jim Ryan doesn't really care about indie games. So I in my opinion, I just feel like they wanted to give Shuhei a position in general, because Shuhei still has a very valuable name in the industry, especially when it comes to Japan, right? But so they gave him the indie, the indie department or whatever. He's doing a great job. But I think the overarching concern for me is that Jim Ryan and them, they do not think the same thing. Jim Ryan does not care about indie, and he's continued to say that, and he's continued to try to push AAA titles, and that has been the continuing focus of PlayStation, which I do not give a fuck about. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, you can give me as many Last of Us remakes as you want, or, these other games that we've seen time and time again. Give me something that I used to play as a kid during PS2 days that I loved, and rehashing that. Like, that speaks volumes to gamers. It speaks volumes to gamers. You know what I mean? I understand that the niche game may not give you buku bucks, but if you have AAA and a myriad, they can do it. Like, I just don't believe that. I don't believe that they can't do it because, they'll bleed too much money. I don't think they will if they're really careful on what they choose, but that's my opinion. But what do you think, Arthur?
I think it's really funny because this article kind of is like an oxymoron in itself, because it talks about the stigma that PS5 has, the struggles of trying to develop with the PS5 as any developer. But it's funny because articles like this increase that stigma. But I think they should do what for me. Here's what I think. I think you should do what Xbox did. Add more value to your PlayStation Plus by putting more indie games into that. That's what I noticed with Game Pass. Game Pass, even though Game Pass, yes, has a massive echelon of AAA games on it now, it didn't early on. But what they started to do, what before Game Pass became the behemoth it was originally a Halo Gears War machine. That's all it was. That in between then and now, indie games. For me, State of Decay 1 was an indie game. And that was a game I was heavily looking to play in. Now, of course, Undead Labs has been bought by Microsoft. It's a part of Microsoft Studios, but State of Decay State of Decay 1 was on Game Pass. State of Decay 2 was not going to be in Game Pass. And so when State of Decay 2 was announced, it was going to be in Game Pass. That was a game. For that game alone, I'm willing to buy Game Pass. I'm willing to be a Game Pass subscriber. And PlayStation Plus has its potential to do that. It's long, play the long game. Yes. Do you mind, if you throw 10 darts, if you throw 10 indie games at the wall, that is PlayStation Plus. Will all of them knock out of the park and do it? No. But there's going to be a few in there that's going to be enough for people to jump into PlayStation Plus, give you that consistent income, consistent backing, and player base so that you can start building up newer projects or more anticipated sequels. Like I'm still anticipated for State of Decay 3. And again, that all came from State of Decay 1. And again, and State of Decay 2 was going to be a game I was going to buy outright. So when they got announced that game, State of Decay 2 was coming to Game Pass, boom, that's when I made the switch. I made the switch because the sequel of a game I loved in Game Pass is now coming to Game Pass. I'm jumping to Game Pass now, whereas before I did that dollar trial thing. But I think that's an option on the table they should look at. Do I think they're going to look at it? No. But that's how I think they can do two birds to one stone here. Is no one's talking about the value of PlayStation Plus. I think like we were talking about it, it's really the only tangible value savings if you buy the highest tier, that face value upfront cost versus the monthly, but that's a lot of money to upfront. But I think as PlayStation Plus builds and this increasing, as we're discussing, increasing stigma with indie games on PlayStation 5, I think that's potentially the perfect opportunity to address the indie development situation in Sony while also addressing the value within PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Even having it available for, say, because they have the tier list, right? The tiers. Even have it under one of the lower tiers, like the essentials, just so you have more people getting on that service and being able to be exposed to those great indie games, I think that's a great idea. As far as it being profitable, the numbers, I have no idea, but I think as far as just to really show PlayStation is serious about exposing, getting more exposure to indie devs and to those games to the public. I really feel like that's really the way to do it, and I feel like PlayStation Plus has become so niche over the years, where now it's just a hurdle to play online or to play a game that you downloaded years ago, but you need PlayStation Plus now. Unfortunately, that's how it is on the Xbox side now. It didn't used to be, but now it is. But nevertheless, I mean, Game Pass is Game Pass. Game Pass is amazing. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, and PlayStation Plus is, it's never not ever going to meet Game Pass, but as far as it being a worthy service to have, and to be happy that you have that I can't say if people are on board for that.
There's something else I mentioned in the article here, which I mentioned I did like from the last State of Play, was we started to see that new logo on the screen. PlayStation Plus exclusive or PlayStation Plus Day One. I forget which one it was.
Yeah, communication.
But yeah, like again, like me, I remember when I started seeing the Game Pass logo at E3, I was like, oh man, we have a thing. This is a thing, guys. And so I think, that's kind of, I think that's what they should do next. They should do what Game Pass did to make it eventually be what it is today. Again, agreed. It will never be Game Pass. It will never be. But it doesn't mean what they did. It doesn't mean what they did to get where they are shouldn't possibly be replicated within Sony, because again, it worked. It worked. I would argue for all parties involved. Now, I'm not. I would say not the majority of people, but I would say there is a majority of people. There is a significant amount of people like me. Who are like, let's say Deep Rock Galactic. Deep Rock Galactic via Coffee Stain publisher, which also publishes Valheim. What I'm saying is Deep Rock Galactic is on Game Pass. If the makers of Deep Rock Galactic announce a Deep Rock Galactic 2 and it will not be on Game Pass, I'm still buying it, because I know this company, I've played their product, I trust them. If they release a sequel to their first game that will not be on Game Pass, I'm now going to buy that game because of what I enjoyed from their previous product on Game Pass. And so I think that's a down the road outcome. But again, short term, I think you're right. Because honestly, I forgot about the tiers. I forgot how they work. But again, we were saying how only like the most expensive one's really worth it, which is not a good thing. But I think having that PlayStation Plus, Day One PlayStation Plus exclusive logo on more State of Plays, since E3 is out of the picture, is going to be the two birds, one stone situation with the increasingly difficulty and stigma that is indie with PS5, and the still consistent, I would argue, lackluster value of PlayStation Plus. Boom. Put indie on PlayStation Plus is the trim the fat version of what I think they should do.
Definitely agree. Next topic here on the list is a game that I haven't really heard a whole lot from, and it seems like it might be in a slight state of crisis. So much so that BioWare veteran Mark Dara and the Mass Effect team are helping to finish the game, and I'm referring to Dragon Age 4. So, according to Video Games Chronicle, it says here, in quote, EA has announced that BioWare veteran Mark Dara is again working with the studio in bid to help complete Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Dara, who is now serving as a consultant on the game, retired from BioWare in February 2021 after almost a quarter of the century at the studio. During that time, he led programming for the Baldur's Gate games, directed Sonic Chronicles, and executive produced the Dragon Age series. Additionally, EA told VentureBeat that BioWare's Mass Effect team is now assisting with Dragon Age Dreadwolf development, while Smart Core Group, led by Mike Gamble, continues pre-production work on the next entry in the sci-fi series. In contrast, Dragon Age Dreadwolf has been in production since last September. Our studio is focused on creating the best Dragon Age Dreadwolf while the core Mass Effect team continues their pre-production work, said BioWare's general manager Gary McKay. We continue to iterate and polish Dreadwolf, focusing on the things that matter most to our fans. As we further connect the new experience with the series, Legacy Mark Dira will join the team as a consultant, bringing in him years of experience working on Dragon Age. End quote. Samantha Ryan, senior president and group general manager EA, added, end quote, BioWare has a long history of making amazing single-player games with powerful stories that fans can immerse themselves in. Said they've been taking their time on the next Dragon Age, trying new things, bringing in the right people, and making sure that they're refining their game. That's normal for a complex game of this genre. This phase of production takes time, and the studio wants to make sure it gets it right for its fans, end quote. To me, that just says, look, we're fucking up. Shit isn't happening. Mark Dare is a consultant, so he tried to fix this shit. That's why we haven't seen Dick of Massive of the Dragon Age Dreadwolf sending out an SOS as the police say via Sting. What do you think, Arthur?
Dude, if come this not E3 season, if come Summerfest, come PAX, if once... I'll say, because I know PAX East just wrapped up. But by the way, come Summerfest or Video Game Awards, if we don't even see a cinematic trailer for Dragon Age 4, I'm going to be very, very worried. Let me rephrase that. Me personally, I'm already in a category of don't care. I mean, it's no longer BioWare. Dragon Age for me, I didn't have the best first impressions with it. Like I said, that game's unplayable. If you like to play skill-based Archer games and you try to play the first Dragon Age, it's unplayable as an Archer. It just is. But Dragon Age 4, there's reports of this thing being in the works, since 2015. So, I mean, what's happening? What are they doing with this game? It took them forever to get a massive announcement, Drell. You remember the last big announcement? We have a name. Because 4 wasn't good.
Yeah, because I was like, wait,
that's what? Because, that's what we all were worried about. What's its name? I thought it was going to be called Dragon Age 4. Whoa, nope, Drell, we have a huge, big announcement. It has a name. Whoopity-doo.
Yeah, it's kind of like that kid's science project that he just didn't get to finish it, and the teacher's like, all right, Jimmy, so let's take a look at your project.
So if you have some baking soda and it's a volcano, Jimmy, that's baking powder. Crap. I honestly forgot this game was going to exist because we've been hearing about it or not hearing about it for so long. It's because, I want to say with this, like I said, if we don't get a gameplay, screenshots, anything of this game being physically made, because this rings bells what we heard before, Drill. Anthem. You look at the announcement tracks for Anthem, this is ringing the same thing. New secret BioWare project in the works. Big announcement, guys. Has a name. Anthem. Because remember before, Anthem was like Project Scarlet or something, Project bleh. And then we got this cinematic trailer. And what we know now, I remember with Anthem, what we know now, some of the developers working on Anthem were like, oh, that's what this game's going to look like? We have work to do. Because they made like a literal just trailer when they had no gameplay. And again, so I have a lot of Anthem production vibes coming from Dragon Age 4 or now Bloodwolf. Dreadwolf? What's it called? Dreadwolf?
Yeah, Dreadwolf. Yeah.
Wolf? It's like,
yeah.
Because just call it 4. It's easier to remember, guys. Because again, with a game that's been in production and not existing this long, just make it easier to remember. Dragon Age 4. DA4 is the acronym.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's funny though. The funny thing to me is that obviously BioWare's not BioWare anymore, right?
Nah.
The consultant was one of the people where it was BioWare. You know what I mean? But it's funny. It's funny that they have to bring him in to help work on this game. And clearly the game is in a state of crisis. Like, this is just a really nice marketing PR nonsense as far as it's like, no, like, this is normal. I know it's not normal. As far as the tracking of how this game has been working, the lack of gameplay footage, the lack of any footage for the game at all. We don't even have a trailer, like a fake trailer. We had a font, we had a color palette, we've had
interviews with developers on certain, Twitter holidays, I call it. But like, you know what I mean? Like, interviews of like, how do you feel about Dragon Age 4? So here's my story as a developer. Cool. That sucks you at adversity. Where's the game?
Yeah, like, can you answer the original question I asked? Yeah, it's in a state of crisis. You know what I mean? And you don't bring in a consultant because everything's great. That's not why you bring in a consultant. It's not like they like brought in a new developer, a new writer. They brought in a consultant. That's corpo speak for a fixer. You wouldn't bring in a fixer unless something's broken, Drell. Right, exactly. And it's funny that, this is one of the OG guys when BioWare was at the peak of its success. We're like, wow, like, this is incredible. So, and honestly, I don't know how much he can really do, because based on how big of a mess, depending on how bad of a mess Dragon Age 4 is, I mean, it might turn into another the Last Guardian situation, where you're dealing with tens of years of R&D and outdate graphics, and you really got to shape it to try to get it to a way that it's going to be playable for a customer of today, right? So, I know this game isn't 10 years in the making, but
coming close.
It's a problem enough to call a consultant, definitely. And I will say, I would give it a year, Arthur. I think if 1 year we don't see any gameplay, I'm probably not going to be worried about the game. And when I say that, I mean, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to be playing it. I've personally been looking forward to Dragon Age. It's a great series. It's different, and they did change up the gameplay over the years. Inquisition is very much more action based. So it's kind of leading the same not forecast, but just wave of what gamers want. They want action RPG. Yes. They don't want the old school turn-based RPGs like we used to get back in the day. Although those have their own creative palettes, it's just not what people want to play today. So with that being said, that is where they need to deliver on something. I'll give them a year to give us something. Give us something, guys. Give us something for us to give a shit about it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my thing on that.
In terms of like, give us something. There's an article from IGN that was done in February 2022, Drill. BioWare says Dragon Age 4 is right in the middle of production as executive producer departs. So yeah, people are jumping ship. They lost an executive producer a year ago. It's fine. Everything's fine, Drill. It's not on fire. There's no fire. That's not smoke. That's carbonized steam.
Yeah, man.
But I'm curious to see what new things this brings to the RPG table, because remember, there's still a lot of big RPGs down the road. We still, think of all the RPGs that's still in production we're waiting on. Top of my head, we got Outer Worlds 2, we got Avowed, we have Elder Scrolls 6,
new Mass Effect.
We have new Mass Effect. We have this still to be announced massive, not massive, but open world Star Wars Ubisoft game. There's still a lot of big contenders for RPGs in the works. So Dragon Age 4, I think, for me, and I can't speak to everyone, but if you look at the big RPGs that we know are going to exist, but we've seen nothing about, that's nowhere near the top for me. Outer Worlds 2, again, because there are now what we're saying with Dragon Age of how we've seen nothing yet. You can say that for a lot of games, and that's fair. I can say that for Avowed. I can say that for Outer Worlds 2, but an asterisk, they told us to wait. Because in the Outer Worlds 2 trailer, they were like, how much of this game is actually done? you have no idea because neither do we. You know what I mean? So they were very they were very meta parody about the Outer Worlds 2 announcement trailer being a parody on itself. So we know nothing about Outer Worlds 2, but neither do they. They're upfront about it. So an asterisk to that. Same thing with Elder Scrolls 6, to the point where, remember, Bethesda even came out and said, hey, we might even regret telling people that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to exist because of how little to nothing has been done for that game. And so again, with now Dragon Age 4 in this category of RPGs, but that's going to come out in the distant future. GTA 6 in this category. You know what I mean? GTA 6 now in this category of games we know that's going to exist. We have no idea when they're going to come out. Dragon Age 4 needs to do no more to make themselves in the forefront of anticipation and that. Now, I'm not saying rush the game, but this is a game we've heard a lot about, but have seen nothing. You know what I mean?
And I would argue too, like, we know more about GTA 6. And unfortunately, some of it is forcibly because some of it's been leaked. I haven't seen it because I'm trying not to get exploded for myself. But we've seen more from GTA 6 than Dragon Age 4, which is weird because GTA 6 is a much bigger game. It's a huge fucking game, and we know more about that than Dragon Age 4. What does that say about Dragon Age 4?
and GTA 6 is GTA 6 is like the game people are talking about. Like, man, my grandkids gonna love it.
Like this is GTA 6 is the next game for the next 10 years. Like, they're making it a goddamn near a live service game. And we know more about it than we know about Dragon Age 4, which is going to be a single player game. You know what I mean? Like, so that just speaks volumes. But you're right. There's a lot of RPGs that we just don't know what's going on with them, and we're waiting on them, and a lot of them are in fact huge titles that cannot disappoint. Like an Elder Scrolls game, like it cannot disappoint. It's gonna look really fucking bad for Bethesda. Another Fallout disappointment is gonna look even worse. Starfield has to deliver to some degree. It's got to be a lot better than Cyberpunk. That's what I'm thinking. Numbers wise, it's got to do a lot better than Cyberpunk, I think. But yeah, man, it's weird.
It's because if you think about it too, articles have either been about Dragon Age 4, either have been about people leaving or the most minuscule update. It has a name. Cool. You want to tell me anything else? That guy left. You shouldn't have told me anything else.
Like, honestly, dude, like after you framing that, like, if it's not on Game Pass, I'm probably not gonna buy it. Like, just to be completely honest, like, just like the state that it's in, and it's weird too, where as a gamer today, now we're like, because you said this before, and I agree with you. It's like we just want games to work now. They can't even work. They can't even work correctly day of. Some games, there's a little bit of reasons outside of their control. Some games have to be pressure tested for them to be patched and fixed. That's just that's just what it has to happen for some games. But the majority of games should have worked when they released, and a lot of them do not. You know what I mean? So that's just a whole. They want to have this play now, patch later model that is really getting out of control. You know what I mean?
Horrible.
Yeah.
And that play release now, patch later thing needs to die fast. But that's what again, for me, I'm not the biggest multiplayer guy, so people can tell you if the next competitive shooter, like, again, there's a lot more people that's gonna have their ears to the ground for CS, for Counter-Strike 2. I will a little bit for the news, just for us talking about it. But again, I'm an RPG guy. I'm a cooperative RPG guy. So again, for someone like me, that's what I'm saying. Like, so someone like a customer like me, I have all these games on my back burner, and Diablo's another one, but Diablo's more of this year. But you know what I'm saying, of down the road RPGs, it is a massive list. That list is increasing every year, and that list is getting more competitive every year. And there's bigger names dropping. Star Wars, GTA, you know what I mean? Me biasly, Obsidian, but Elder Scrolls 6. And so it's just very concerning. Again, like you were saying, that unless this game's on Game Pass, I'm not buying it. Now they might have a crazy boom, the entire game is cooperative start to finish, that might get me intrigued. But unless it does, I don't see myself buying this $70 day one.
Yeah, neither do I. And unfortunately, for those that never got to play certain games, they better buy them quickly before they close shop entirely. And I'm referring to,
Sounds like another fun story to talk about there.
and the last story on the docket. And unfortunately, I think it's probably past the point at this time of talking about this. But in general, I'm referring to the 3DS Wii U eShop. So it says here, according to NintendoLife.com, it says here the North American stores will be closing at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. It says it'll be closed. I guess let me start from the top. The Wii U 3DS eShops are closing today, Monday, 27th of March. So yeah, it's over, guys. Sorry. If you're listening to this now. The North American stores have closed 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, according to Nintendo. Let's see. Okay, so it's been over a decade, but it's finally happening. Nintendo's closing down the Wii U 3DS eShops, meaning that very soon you'll no longer be able to buy digital games on either platform. This change takes place until March 27th, 2023, which means that it's still time. There's no time anymore. Let's see.
I like that correction.
This article just says it will be closing, but it's closed already. It's over. It's over, guys. Like, it's did Nintendo say anything else besides like these games are some of our favorite classics? Like, people just can't play these games anymore. They just no longer exist after the 27th, which already happened. That's crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's the one beauty of PC, is where those games would be available on PC and you could just go back to your archive, buy them, download them, at least be able to play them when you want. But for Nintendo, since there's such like we gotta have our IPs. We don't want to have them on any other platform. They're just gonna burn these like they're books, and no one else can experience them. Like that's like, just thinking about that is kind of insane. Like, obviously, if you have the hard copy to those games, not an issue. But if you can't find the hard copy and it's excruciatingly difficult to find, people have to play these games illegally, which we don't want to do, right? We don't want to do it, but you're not giving us a choice. So it's like, and to be very clear, I don't care much about this because I don't own anything Nintendo anymore. But I'm just imagining for those fans where it's like, I wanted to get into this XYZ thing, I never got the chance to, and now I just can't. You know what I mean? Like, unless I buy the archaic hardware and try to find the archaic software and find the charger to the goddamn handheld or the AC thing to the console, I'm fucked. And that's crazy to me. Like, that's one of the points of PC that I liked, is that you can always go and just buy the fucking thing on the library, put it on your put it in your library, and then just go back to it when you just want to fuck around. Like, that's why I love GOG games. That's why it's Steam, even though Steam, you're basically leasing every game you buy, but as long as I have internet, I can play it and I don't fucking care. But like, at least there's those avenues of digital old games. But when you just remove something entirely, it's like, yo, like, how much of an issue was it having it up there? Was Nintendo losing that much money for them to pull the goddamn thing down? Like, it's just weird, man. It's weird that we rely on digital so much, and for digital to react this way, as far as, oh yeah, we're just gonna close this. You know, like, what? I don't know. What do you think? You're probably not responding as crazy as I am.
No, you're absolutely right, because that was one of the biggest pushers for digital preservation. Because like in every aspect of nearly any industry, when you hear of the switch from analog or tangible to digital, what's the reason? Preservation. Whether it's some library scanning their PDFs or their books, games going from cartridges to digital, what's the reason? Simplicity and preservation. And if you're Nintendo, screw it. which
Yeah,
is a
like,
weird time.
fucking
Which is a
A.
weird time for them. Their Mario movies around the corner. They just opened a wing of their own amusement park in Universal Studios, Orlando, Hollywood. Well, no, Hollywood. I don't know about Orlando. But Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Studios Tokyo. You couldn't have held on to it for like a few more months until your movie drops to get people back on there. Because
Like, yes, exactly.
and here's the thing for me, like when I moved here to Minnesota, when I moved here to Minnesota in late August, I got rid of. I didn't even put in the effort. I didn't even put in the effort of going to GameStop. I just gave them a neighbor. I did 3DS and I gave all like 6 games I had. One of which was Kingdom Hearts 3D. Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. And, you know, if there's any fandom that's, you know, not want to say niche, dude, if I would have still held on to like that one Kingdom Hearts cartridge, I could have sold it for pretty good money now. Because it'd be valuable now.
Seriously, yeah, exactly.
So, but that was one of the biggest in nearly any industry. One of the biggest core drivers from going to analog to digital. It was preservation and storage. So for them to just shut it down, and here's the thing about Nintendo, they're not very transparent at all. They're a big, we're gonna do this, screw you, give me $70 for Zelda, you know. And this is Nintendo. The weird thing that I see it's Nintendo in terms of their publicity. Nintendo knows their publicity; they just don't care. They're like, hey, we're doing this. We don't care. Oh, you don't like it? We don't care. But I will say in the backwards, and that this is really not like Nintendo, because up until now, we've been praising Nintendo's name for preservation. But now I guess just picky and choosy, because they still have their SNES catalog. Remember, Drill. Now it's starting to hit me. You know, they just shut down these stores. Remember when was one of the biggest perks to their there's a burp coming, to their subscription service. Remember at that one Nintendo State of Play, Nintendo Direct that was like a miniature E3. Yeah. Remember what was one of the things they debuted or announced at that crazy Nintendo Direct? N64 and Sega Genesis games coming to their online service.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they have put a portion of these on there instead of just like you said, digitally just burning them all down? Of just highlight, right click, delete. No, not recycle bin, just deleting them.
Yeah, like they could have increased their subscription base. You know what I mean? As far as like the price, again, it would have been valid because like, look, there's new shit on here. You know what I mean? Like increasing an extra, even an extra $2-3. Like people they wouldn't bat an eye. They would automatically subscribe still.
If you just say the entirety, not a portion, not 1,000, the entirety of the 3DS and Wii U stores are on that service now, and they increased the service by let's say $5, $10 would be a little people upset. Understandable. You're putting 2 generations, 2 whole entire systems worth, just poof, here you go. And here's the thing. The other thing that came out from this that found people trending, or for me at least what my algorithm, what a lot of people started posting after this 3DS situation. A lot of people started figuring out that you could put in original Xbox discs as is into your Series X and they play. Now that might be fake news, but either way, I still like that. I can still have my Xbox my original Xbox, the original Xbox games on the store. I was playing Hunter the other day, and I bought Tom Splitters for $2. It makes me nervous because I'm hoping this isn't something that Xbox does, because Sony tried it and they backed off. Remember, Sony was announced the PS3 and the PS Vita. Remember that?
Yeah, that was a very that was a bad situation. A lot of people were pissed off. Like even IGN writers were openly pissed off and even mentioned it in their podcast, probably when they shouldn't have, because they're close. They're close. They do close business with those companies. But yeah, and then they they said nah, my bad.
And real quick, I did a quick Google. Yes, you can put original Xbox discs into your Series X and they still play. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, Xbox is they're literally at this point to me.
They're now the king of preservation.
They're the best. They're the best at preservation. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. You know what I mean? And I love that that's still valued, and I still owe that to Phil Spencer. You know, I think he's really done a big push, I think, and contributor to making sure that happens. I will say the last episode where Church said that where Phil came back and he pretty much did the exact same thing that they're originally pushing during E3. That's entirely not true when I thought about it again, because during that announcement, during that E3, they were pushing Xbox to be more of a TV service, like to have a TV subscription service and to have the Kinect, which eventually they divvied away. I think people were upset that it was turning into a Wii niche console, and that there was less focus on game production, because sometimes Microsoft has problems with releasing their IP, their big IP games available, and having them be good good products. You know what I mean? Exactly, to my point. So I think the fact that whoever before Phil Spencer did that, and where Phil Spencer really focused more, let's focus on our games and the less media stuff later. That is, Phil Spencer did that, and that was not a company initiative originally. That was not a focus. If it was a focus, they would have approached it the way Phil Spencer was, kind of pulling the wheel back. So that's the one thing I do disagree with Church about that. I was just thinking about it. I was like, well, you know what? Phil Spencer did change it for the right reason, for sort of focusing on the game. Everything else, yes, maybe you can argue those features were implemented, but but I remember that conference very vividly, and I remember they had a whole fucking segment about it being more so a DVR, a TV service.
It was like a drinking game.
TV. And the Kinect. That was a big focus that they were pushing on. They had minutes on the show floor to push that versus focusing on their IP games, and that was a fucking mistake. So I will give Spencer, as far as when it comes to turning the ship, around, that was the focus that he had, but back to this topic when it comes to preservation. Yeah, to me it's scary that Nintendo is doing this, because before Microsoft, Nintendo were the preservation kings. You know what I mean? The eShop has the original Super Mario Brothers on there, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's $20. Like, what the fuck? But because it's Nintendo. But before Microsoft, there was Nintendo, and Nintendo was in fact the preservation kings. They had a whole ass catalog for Nintendo fans, 30, 40 years old, available for you to play, and you can buy it. So the fact that they're divvying away a whole ass generation like it doesn't exist anymore, and now people have to hunt down these games, it's a little concerning to me.
And again, speaking to the now self-dethrone, Nintendo self-dethroning themselves, and Xbox now the new king of preservation. Just a reminder, with the Series X. This is from Games Radar. Quote, with the Series X, you can now use game discs for Xbox One, Xbox 360, and original Xbox. That's insane.
You have to be connected online, though, right? I mean, regardless, it's amazing.
Still, yeah.
But yeah, but to your point, that's incredible. That's unheard of. No other console does that, literally.
No. Series X over here, like playing Xbox original, like Time Splitters games, and also in PlayStation 5, like, what's a PlayStation 4? Dude, we're talking about Church, and Church was praising GameStop. We're talking about used games. Dude, Xbox and GameStop need to like market that more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because
we're saying what's the biggest, on the back end, what's the biggest, I don't want to say revenue generator, but like what's the biggest return on investment for GameStop, the market value, not market value, return on investment, profit margin. There, that's a face. The biggest profit margin is used items. Because it's 100%. It's all GameStops. So, there's other people there that want a game on they want a game on a budget. That that go to GameStop, dude. pre-owned games, Xbox original, 360, and all that. That's crazy. And I will say, back to your Phil Spencer thing with E3. Do you remember when they had kids on the stage playing with Kinect zoo animals?
Oh no,
Kinectimals.
I try to forget it.
And we're all just like, what are we watching?
Yeah, I just remember opening the store and I was taking it to trade, and I'm like, what the fuck am I watching right now? Like, I have my phone next to the register.
Like, hey,
like, what are they doing? What are they doing?
Petting a tiger. Like I said, Xbox, rightfully so, blew up the Kinect. Not like, oh, they got, not, I don't mean like modern day, oh, it blew up online. No, I mean like C4 plastic explosive, they blew it up. So that's why I'm still nervous. Not to like sort of tangent, but that's why I'm sort of nervous with the PSVR 2, just because consoles, when they've got out of their lane, haven't done too well.
Well, I will say too, before we end the show, more bad news. They're already showing reports of unexpected reported underwhelming sales for VR2.
No,
right, and it's like, look, it costs it's like buying two consoles, two PS5s to play some bullshit games. Like, and you have to have a PS5 to play it. That's what I'm saying. You have to have a PS5 to play it. You know what I mean? That's why I say, like, it literally is like two PS5s, like, as far as like the cost. Like, it's like $5.99 or some shit for some bullshit, and you have to have the PS5. It just shows how out of touch. It shows out of touch, and it shows that there is really a missing focus. Like, Jim Ryan needs to stop focusing on, because he has nothing. Because I do agree that Jim Ryan should have been focusing on, hey, what's going on with this Call of Duty thing with Xbox? I get it, because it costs, like, they get millions of dollars of sales for people buying Call of Duty for PlayStation. I get that, but what I do think that he needs to revert his fucking attention towards is the PS5 and its games, because PSVR 2 is not going to do it. It's not going to do it where you have all these layoffs and shit, when you have costs are rising. Like, where do you fucking think your entire population is? Like, not everyone lives in fucking San Francisco that makes like six figures. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, that's the annoying factor where it's like, you need to really focus on your games, dude.
When you were talking about the cost and trying to get off the phrase, how do you, I thought you were about to say, no, what you were saying, where do you? I was like, I thought you were about to say, where do you get off, Jim Ryan? I'm trying to price.
How dare you, sir?
You know what I mean? Because you're right. Like, but you're buying, hey, do you have a PS5? Do you want to buy a PS5 again? Because that's what you're doing with the PSVR VR2. That's what you're doing. And there's only like a handful. Like, you can count in one hand original games at launch, because the majority of their catalog at launch is a port from their from their VR1. And Joel, talk about backwards compatibility. PlayStation VR1 games don't work on VR2.
Yeah, What does
that work?
That's like, what I was saying. That's what I was saying a couple episodes ago. I was like, hey, it's funny, VR1 games will work in VR2, and it's literally like a 2-year gap. You know what I mean? Like it's insane.
It's like a 2-year gap, super small gap. And you have to buy them, and you have to buy them again, because there's one thing that Sony is known for is for their quote unquote upgrade system. It has never been good. Now with Ghost of Tsushima, now with Last of Us, nothing. The UPS delivery Kojima, Norman Reedus,
Death
Stranding. Thank you. I just throwing out words. I just couldn't think of the name. I just remember Norman Reedus. UPS.
You said UPS Kojima. I said, oh, okay, so it does Stranding.
But yeah, like I said, none of their upgrading from PS4 to PS5 worked or was, I would say, financially fair or reasonable day one. And now they've even upped their own game with, hey, those games that came out like 2 years ago for the PlayStation VR? Yeah, buy them again.
It's wild, bro. It's a whole ass wild thing. So
between Nintendo shutting down its stores, Sony having no idea how to spell preservation or backwards compatibility, Xbox Whatever.
It always boils down to subscribe to Game Pass. And that is the end of the show. Anything else you want to talk about? That's all the topics I have.
I will give this. I will give one compliment where I did not think it was going to be due. This might be a little longer, so if it's a little ending topic, I am surprisingly very, very, third one, very excited for Diablo 4.
Ooh.
That now, mind you, church. I know they were due to a tech issue on my end. We did a stream with all of us there, and not all the audio went through.
It's okay.
But I was internally screaming every time Church was trying to educate me on like decades worth of mechanics on Diablo. I'm like, Diablo.
That's my job. I'm supposed to be educating everybody else.
No, because he's like, oh, you know you can do this? Did you know you can do this? Yes, that's Diablo. Yes, if you play games outside the Immortal, they can do that. That's how games work when you play on a phone. And so I was just like internally just going crazy. He's like, do you know you can transmog them? Yes. It's yes, because that's what happens when a game doesn't exist on a phone. And so like
that's why I love Church, man. That's why he's a great person to be on the show.
Angry. I was just like happily angry. He's like, do you know you can do this? Yes. Because this isn't Diablo 2 or this is Diablo 4. That being said, with Diablo 4 beta, I played the Necromancer. If it really felt like day one Diablo, like I'm back, I'm back. I'm playing Diablo. It's cooperative. There's things I don't like it's a live service. Unfortunately that's one more things of it's the future. Microtransactions, battle passes, season passes. So there's all new things that's becoming an industry norm that I can't really get too many at Diablo, though I kind of want to because it was Blizzard that made some of these industry norms popular. I'm looking at you, Overwatch. But as a game, dude, the week following the beta, I was just constantly Googling, YouTubing, also using Bing. Speaking of Game Pass, if you use Bing, every time you search it, you get reward points. So you want to check?
I have like $20, I think. I can cash out. Yeah. So
really random. Also, just hey, it's me. Me talk about Game Pass should not be a shocker. I breathe air, I eat food. I talk about Game Pass. Hi, I'm Arthur. Nice to meet you. So I've been using Bing a lot more because I get reward points. But I've been searching a lot of Diablo stuff. And one thing that makes me a little nervous, but not entirely, is there's more speak that industry insiders are concerned that this beta we played is not actually a quote unquote beta, but a demo. The biggest difference between a demo and a beta is a beta means that change will be implemented, whereas a demo is like, here's the game. A demo is like, here's the game. It comes out in a week or a month, whatever, play it. Whereas a beta says, here, it's a public play test. If there's things to fix, we'll fix. Now, there's worries that now, I don't think it's true, but even if it is, I'll say this, Drill. Even if the bugs or like things that will not be fixed day one, I'll say this. I was almost messaging you guys like, dude, the internal hype and excitement I had playing that beta, I was talking myself out of pre-ordering it. Because I love Diablo.
I had a great time playing with y'all. It was really fun.
The Necromancer is my favorite. Very specifically, the Diablo Necromancer is my favorite RPG class I've ever played. Just as a franchise. Like when I play like other RPGs, I play Stealth Archer, Skyrim, or a stealth shooter, Outer Worlds, Fallout. But if I have the chance to be like a summoner or a necromancer, it's because of Diablo. That is my go-to class. I love doing that. And so when I was playing that beta and having hands-on with you guys, I'm just like, I was all in. Put it all on red. Let's go. And so it's, again, compliment towards due. I am shocked of how flip I've gone from I want Blizzard to burn to I cannot wait for June to play this game.
Yeah.
That being said, if Blizzard pulls a Blizzard and they mess it up, it just sucks because I'm now going to be that much more of a fall from grace because I got excited, because I hyped myself up, because I was anticipating it. If Blizzard does what Blizzard does and they mess up the launch, it's going to be that much more of a fall for me. And I'm not looking forward to that happens, Joe.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna hurt a lot more. I do agree with you. I had a great time playing. The Necromancer is fucking crazy. Just seeing like going through like one dungeon to the next and seeing like blood just thrown in my face as I'm trying to go through the hallway. I'm like, what the fuck?
Corpse explosion, they're gonna nerf it, but the Necromancer I would say is a smidge OP, but there are small fixes where if they can make it a little more balanced. But knowing how anybody balances anything, if it's something's nerfed, oh, sorry if I hit my mic. If something's nerfed, rather than doing a slight constructive fix like they should do, I'm ready to do what everyone always does and just woof, like fix it too much, nerf it too much, and now it's not fun, now it's not playable, now it's super weak. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As far as the beta demo argument, I don't know if it's true. And honestly, too, it is another state of semantics, I think, as well, because the original, the notion that you mentioned as far as like the demo, like it's done, it's just a portion of it. It's not entirely the case, just because there's a lot of disclaimers before you play a demo that say that like what you're playing may not be the final version; it can change. Usually a demo is more of a refined state of a game. You know what I mean? I think that is easy to be said, but I will say there's always been an asterisk for demos saying that this is not the final version. Things can change. And I think a beta is more so an online version of that. But again, I think it's just a semantics nature. I think when it comes to the game coming out in 2 months, I think that should be a significant amount of time to fix little nuances. Unfortunately, they are going to have a play now, patch later functions because it is a live service game. You can't really avoid that. You can avoid that in general because it's a live service game, so that will happen. And also pressure testing and stuff like that. Like that's stuff that regular games don't deal with, that have to be patched. But yeah, I mean, I really want the game to win. I want it to win. I want it to be really good just because I had such a really good time. Because I was telling you, I haven't had that good of a time playing online since like either when we played Gears of War, or when I played Mass Effect 3, or when I played fucking Champions of Norath. Like even just removing the online portion, just playing the game, like Baldur's Gate Champions of Norath, like those are some of my favorite top-down action RPGs. So, for this to have that type of nostalgia and some, very exciting. And I don't play very many games these days, but if this game were to hook me, I might be that fat fuck that plays Diablo, 3 times. I'm mad times a month, you know what I'm saying? So,
dude, I already gave you guys, Gerald, I already warned you guys, man. Heads up, when that game launches, I'm gonna no life that game.
It's been so long since I've heard you say that phrase, because I remember like during Skyrim that was the case. You said that Fallout 4, 3, you know what I mean? It's nice to no life a game that's good. You know what I mean? Like that is good, really,
that's fun.
Yeah.
I will say also in terms of cooperative, like joining other people's worlds, they do something that I wish every single cooperative game would always do. They scale it. What I mean by that is I was level 10, Church was level 15, you were level 1. Like you literally turned the game on, major character, we joined. But it wasn't one of those situations where like Church is level 15, killing everything, I'm level 10, killing some things, and you're level 1, not doing anything, just picking up the loot from all the people we one tapped. No, they scaled it. So for me, my enemies were level 10. For Church, they were level 15. So even though we were playing together at completely different levels, it was still challenging. We nearly died during a boss. We were like freaking out, so in terms of because that's a core mechanic. And if one of your core mechanics is bad, the game will be bad. So I know this last topic kind of being a longer one, but I will say that in terms of a core mechanic of how joining other people's worlds, the scaling makes it astronomically better. Because if you've ever played like Borderlands, for example, it's a level of the host. Now, this might have been Borderlands 2. For me, Borderlands 3 was kind of forgetful. And plus, I only played Borderlands 3 with Victor, so we were at the same level the entire time. But Borderlands 2, I was joining other people's games. And I want to say it was like, if I'm level 20 and he's level 10, the world's level, the whole world is level 10. So I'm just plowing through everything. And now all of a sudden, the host of the game feels bored because a high level friend joined. And so that not be the case where everyone, the host of the world, the friends that have joined it, they all have fun together because it's scaled. Diablo's back.
Great point.
So happy. I'm happy to play it. I'm excited for it. And here's the thing, Drell. That's another reason why I'll try to cut it short. That's another reason why I've criticized Blizzard for so long. It's because I haven't felt this towards a Blizzard game in what feels like over a decade. You know what I mean? And this is what Blizzard was to a lot of people. Blizzard was the champion of fun. Look at World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft blew up the way it did because it was fun. And Blizzard along the years focused less on fun and more on people's wallets. And it showed time and time again. And to have a taste of that come back in this beta, I'm very happy for.
Very exciting. We will see what happens. Hopefully they can hit the mark. As I had a great time as well.
And one last thing, you're welcome for ending the show on a good note.
Yes, yeah. No, that. No, well, kudos to you because you brought up the topic. So that's gonna wrap it up here for the Gamers for Life podcast. Each and every Friday, Saturday, discussing Sunday, discussing all things games. I'm one of your hosts, Sherelle. With me is my co-host, Arthur Thomas.
That's me.
Alrighty, thanks y'all. We will see you next week.